Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Live Coding Happy Hour on Friday, February 5th. We're going to continue our dive into Quebec features on this show, looking at the REST API triggers. But before that, we have some introductions. We've got a special show today where we have the original developer advocate team along with the current developer advocate team. So let's go ahead and get started with introductions. Josh.
Hi, so I'm Josh Nerius. I'm a product manager here in the platform business unit at ServiceNow. My focus is integration hub and other integration capabilities. And like Brad mentioned, also was a developer advocate here a while back. So I'm happy to be back. It's always good to be on Live Coding Happy Hour.
Hey, I'm Dave Slusher. Along with Josh, we founded this endeavor here. I am now a software engineer on the Integration Hub team, where I do similar work focused on the demonstrability and the enablement around Integration Hub and its features. And it's the same kind of job on exactly, instead of the whole platform, one tiny slice of it. So there's a certain purity to that.
Who's next? Was it me or you, Andrew? I forgot.
It's clearly you.
Okay, clearly. If the yellow boxes are on my Zoom thing, I'm talking. My name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior Developer Advocate at ServiceNow. Was a customer for a couple of years. Been at the company for about 10 and a half and enjoying all of it. I focus in platform, custom apps, integrations, and pump out content like nobody's business.
Well, that's definitely a true statement. I'm Andrew Barnes, developer advocate here at ServiceNow. And I have been a customer implementation partner and have been in this role for about 2.5 years, creating content and, providing feedback to product managers like Josh on what developers are looking for from their tools. And I just love hanging out with you guys.
And my name is Brad Tilton, and I am also a developer advocate. I've been developing on the platform for around 12 years. I've been an employee for the last 4 and doing this specific role for the last almost 1 year.
Almost 1 year.
I think we're coming up on it, so that's exciting. Thanks everybody for being here. One of the other things we do is we drink a beverage during our show and then we rate it at the end. So we're going to introduce our beverages in the same order here.
I guess that means I'm up again. So I have something I've never tried before. We'll see if it shows up. This is a Dilliner Weiss, which is a Berliner Weiss with dill, a collaboration with Publican Quality Meats here in Chicago. From Mars Community Brewing. So we'll see.
With dill, as in pickles.
As in dill pickles, yes. And those
Okay.
are pickles on the front, which are getting caught by the green screen-ish thing here. Anyway, we'll see how it goes.
I'm gonna have the same problem. I don't have a deep bench here. Most of my fridge is Kirkland brand Costco beer. So I'm going for a Sweetwater 420, one of my old favorites. It is, as I've said, it is effectively the Bud Light of the craft beer world, but a nice Atlanta brew. I used to drive right by this area long before this place existed. So there you go, Sweetwater 420.
That's a staple at Dragon Con, man. I can't tell you how many of those I put down at Dragon Con.
That's the home team right there.
Yeah. I don't have any beer worth mentioning in my fridge that I haven't already mentioned the last 6 or 7 episodes. So I mixed it up and literally mixed up a margarita. So,
Nice. And I have got a new one for me. It's a drive-through ale, drive-through red. So it's a red ale. And I couldn't read who brewed it. So, because, probably need some glasses.
I got a glass right here full of margarita.
So I've got a French press. It is an imperial coffee porter aged in bourbon barrels, of course, from St. Arnold Brewery in Houston. I've never had this before, and I'm excited to try it.
Red gets my vote for tastiest sounding beer.
We'll see.
Which is not unusual.
He's always got like the porters and the stouts with the coffee and the chocolate and the, oh man, it's like dessert time at his house.
I have a really good beer store close to me that has all sorts of things, so it's fun. All right. Well, I'm excited about today's show. We're going to get into, I think, one of my favorite Quebec features when we look at our REST API triggers. But I'm going to hand it off to Andrew to tell us what we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, so when I was looking at the new features in Integration Hub and Flow Designer over the past couple of weeks, so last week I was focusing on Flow Designer, and this week specifically in Integration Hub, we have previously had to on the show build scripted REST APIs and then pair those up with flows to provide the data in interaction with the ServiceNow instance. And to see it as a feature for a trigger directly in Flow Designer, I was like, well, that's what I want to show on the show this week. Like that one really resonated with me, and I was like, I want to do that one. So that's what we're gonna do today. Is we're gonna the use case we've got is I want to be able to, from anywhere, but my initial goal is from Slack. I want to be able to initiate one of our, if you've been on the show before, we've got an app called Artifact Manager that we manage things like this show on. And I want to be able to create from Slack an artifact from a template. And the special thing that I want is I want to get back not just the artifact that was created, but we've recently added in some tasking, and I want to get back those subtasks that I might need to go do something with as a result of that, especially if I don't know what those are, like, which I might not, since they're all new and this is a newer process to us. So that's why I can't just initiate a table call, is because I want to return, a custom payload of more than one table back. So that's why I'm going to use this method. So any questions before we dive in?
How do you envision presenting those subtasks in, and we went, I get to this today, but when you see them in Slack, is it just going to be a bunch of cards, or what do you think?
Yeah, I thought about that, and I was like, we're definitely not going to get there. So I stopped thinking about it.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get the payload first.
Good call.
But since you asked about it, really, I just want a way to see if I have something for me to do.
Okay.
Like how that it presents is not as important as whether or not I just know that there is a subtask and like I have a link to click it to like do it.
Sure.
Because I don't want to see tasks that aren't for me that I don't need to do anything with. I want ones that is a task for Andrew to do.
This almost feels like the command line thing too, where we're going in through a REST API and can get back some results too.
Ooh.
We might be able to,
I'm not going to get distracted.
No.
I
Sounds
did
like
have that thought.
Andy.
Sounds like you've got your next LCHH all lined up.
But yeah, so if you haven't seen it, there is a new command line interface. And with that, it is extensible. So you can create new commands in ServiceNow, and they're available directly in the CLI. So that's a really cool feature. And this is kind of like that. Like we're providing a command for an endpoint that's, created from within ServiceNow. So they're a little bit similar. So that's cool. All right. So I will start the screen share and we will get rolling then. Let's share desktop 1. All right, so let me close a couple of windows. I had a backup instance in case this one didn't work. So here we are in our friend Flow Designer, and this is a Quebec instance. So we're still in the early access period of Quebec. So, if you were here last week, you may have noticed that we ran into a couple of bugs. And I will update I forgot to update the description, but I did find out that one of those bugs was known and already solved. I just didn't have that latest build. And the other one is, I believe, already fixed now after reporting it. So early access means there's bugs. And well, that's part of the deal. So hopefully we don't run into too many today, but that is just what happens in patch 0. So I'm going to create an artifact. And we're going to select artifact manager and triggered to send artifact.
New flow in case you missed it.
And yeah, I hit new flow. So we're creating a brand new flow.
Yeah, new UI cleanup too.
Oh, yes. There is a new UI in Flow Designer, which we showed off a little bit last week if you were here, but we'll be able to explore it even more this week. Trigger to send artifact and
Hey Josh, this is the question for you. When you run as the user who initiates session for a scripted REST, are you running as the integration user? Who is the user who initiates the session in this trigger?
That's a fantastic question that I was not prepared to answer, but I believe it's exactly what you said, but I will defer that to further validation.
He said or. He didn't give you it.
Exactly.
Error. Do we have one called that already?
Well, so I created one already just to validate that things were working. I had some trouble installing the trigger. And it saved automatically. That was new. I don't know if y'all have noticed that, but when you create your flows now, it's auto-saving them with Quebec. I don't believe that was a Paris feature. So
I don't remember, but I remember getting told, hey, this already exists a couple of times.
So I've noticed that in Quebec now that when you hit new and when you hit submit, it actually saves it. So it's done. It's created it at that point.
Now,
which should make Brad happy. It saved it for you.
Something to think about as we create more flows is I have actions and flows and whatnot that have somewhat ambiguous names. It dawned on me when I was creating a data stream that I called it something like, get some records. It was less generic than that. But then I went back and refactored my code and I went, oh, I don't need a data stream. I can use just a regular REST action. And I used get some records. And I like to put, like on my data streams, -ds so I can tell it's a data stream versus a regular action. And maybe this is a case where the flow might indicate some kind of trigger. Now it's already been named and saved as, create _artifacts, but you could put, -rest or something to indicate what the trigger is. I'm just saying that, yeah, it can be confusing as you start building out a library of these things. You go, now, which one was the straight up lookup records with a glide record? Which one was the one that did a data stream? Which was the one that got at rest? So something to think about is your naming standards as you start to create more and more of these things.
Yeah, in fact, that's something that I've had the same use case, Chuck. And it's almost something to me that belongs like
yes
here.
Yeah.
what type
The
of
trigger
trigger
type.
it is.
And, and to that point, that is something that, we're thinking about for sure. The other thing that you could do in the short term is we also have categories. So you can start to build, say you're building a spoke and you want to have a bunch of data streams, you could put those into a data stream category within the spoke. And while you may not have the immediate, just by glancing at the name, it's a data stream, at least while you're navigating, you can find it easier. But definitely, I think this is an area where, we can keep thinking about.
I almost feel that's a how to say this right, a twisted use of the categories, because the categories are generally, if I'm doing something with YouTube, I might have a number of actions for playlists. I might have a number of actions for channel or video or list, or kind of categorize them based on the API category.
And so that's probably not universal guidance. I think that's a fair point too, and it's just going to depend on your use case at the moment.
Yep. Okay. Good idea.
While y'all were doing that sidebar, I was checking to see if there was any way for me to get some form of trigger type, and there just isn't at the top level flow a field that contains that sort of data.
Megahertz Prayer says, yeah, in our instance where we're making content for our Flow Integration Hub training, I see loads of copy of Flow that does X.
Yeah. So what are we seeing? This looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so we've got this brand new trigger type. So in order to have this trigger, you need to have a certain level of Flow Designer or Integration Hub, which I think is the professional level.
The Pro or Enterprise.
But
I don't remember.
I think it's Pro or Enterprise, but there is so you need to be on Quebec and you need to have the Integration Hub level that will make this available. But I do have that. And so it is available for me here. And you can see this is very different than any of our other trigger types. There's all sorts of new things that we haven't seen here before, but they're very familiar if you have created scripted REST APIs before. So right off the bat, you see, oh, well, which method are we going to support here? And we're going to do a post, most likely, and we've got a path. So this is an auto-generated path for us based off of API, our scope name, and then our flows name. And then we can add on top of that. We've got a little checkbox for authentication. Then we've got requires roles, which
more security,
which is another thing pulled straight from scripted REST API. I don't think we need that here for us, but that is available. And so I have only glanced at this previously. So this is, as usual, I have not successfully done one of these yet. So this will be new. So, which is great.
With Josh and Dave here, it has to work.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tell you, Andrew, you're one glance ahead of me. So,
and I have a confession to make, which is Chris Malloy, who can't be with us today. This is his baby, and so just want to shout out to him and his dev teams as well.
And so Chris Malloy is another product manager in the Integration Hub area, and he is in fact handles the teams that generate all of the wonderful spokes that we have in the store. So we like Chris. They generated 130 spokes last year that are now available on the store.
Yep,
that was a big lift.
Yeah, they are killing it. It's been good stuff.
In fact, we're Chuck and I were talking earlier today about this. We're converting a bunch of the YouTube. So we've got Josh YouTube stuff. We've got Dave's YouTube stuff that were all scripted. And then we've got my YouTube spoke that I created. And then Brad started working on that with me. And now there is a store YouTube. And over the weekend, my project is uplift all of those that we can to the store's YouTube spoke. So let's continue looking at this scripted REST API. So we've got some other familiar things here. We've got, a body object here, so we can add new fields here in the request area under the body. I don't know that I need any of those yet. And then we've got this whole parameters area, so we can specify path parameters that are going to come up here to the top, I assume, and then query parameters and headers that we can add here. And we're going to need some of these in order to ingest the information we need from the endpoint to create the records that we need. So, but for now, I'm going to say done and hit save, because I like to hit save. And now we'll add some in. But let's take a look at one of our records to make sure we know what we need. And I might actually need to drop over into another instance, but because this isn't the newest version of our artifacts. So I don't think we have the templating here, but Chuck, you can probably walk me through it anyway without needing the records themselves.
You want to make a task template?
I want to, so the artifacts now have, a templating process, right? And so when I generate an artifact of a particular type, it can generate things like tasks for me. And I don't think that is in this instance directly, because this is a little bit of an old version of the app. But what field triggers that? Or is that
it's a UI action at this point.
Okay. So that UI action is calling some other scripting, so we can simulate that.
Yep.
For this purpose. So we've got different types, and so type will be one of the things we need to send over, unless the template, does the template contain type? Probably not, because you create the object, you create the artifact first and then apply the template.
Yes.
So we'll need to accept the type from the user, and then we might need. We probably don't need a short description. What else do we need? What do you for sure need when you create a record, Brad? You've been quiet.
I mean, I think you do want a short description.
I think you do want a short description.
Well, for example, my template, so my old style template for a live code, auto puts a short description in for me.
Okay. So you're going to create from template?
Yeah, so I want to, I potentially want to create from a template.
Gotcha.
That's what my goal was. So when I do this, for example,
this, you get a whole bunch of stuff for free.
I get all this stuff for free. And I just need to go change a couple of things. And so,
I mean, if you could supply the date, that would be nice, because there's a bunch of different places that
I definitely want to supply the date.
The plan publish date.
That need the date.
Yep. The plan publish date. And then maybe I'm going to assume it's assigned to the person who generates it.
I think that's fair.
Because they're at least responsible to go make it not them. You created the thing. Go at least say you're no longer in charge of it.
You could just assign them all to Chuck.
Ooh.
No.
He is the man who generates all the content like a robot. And I think that might be enough to get me rolling, is just the plan publish date, the type, and which template I want to invoke.
Yeah.
So let's start with that. So over here, let's see where we should put this. Path parameters. Let's create a new one. Type.
If it's a post, why wouldn't you put that in the body?
We certainly can.
It's the age-old question.
Yeah. which place do you want it?
I prefer to keep my URLs short, but if you don't necessarily want to pass the body.
I think string is fine.
I will say the one good thing about doing it in the body is that it makes it a lot easier to start just adding arbitrary additional stuff later, because you can always just add more fields and it just continues to go.
Yeah, here's some stuff. You don't have to use it.
And for anyone who's watching along, what's happening here is this is really defining what will this, what should the caller pass to this flow, but then using these controls to do it in such a way that these are attributes that you can easily access in the data pane like you could in any other flow. And Andrew will get to that in a minute.
We don't have a date?
No date type object available.
Well, that makes sense,
But
because
it's
the body
fine.
doesn't really understand a date. It only understands strings.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's just JSON. So
Yep. No, that makes sense.
So I need type, template, plain publish state, and
your template's going to be a string. I mean, is it going to be a sysid you're passing, or is it going to be a
so when I was thinking about how to invoke it before your templating process, I was going to look up the template in the template table and grab that, from the ServiceNow template types.
That's fair.
And so that was just going to be a name.
Done. Simple lookup.
Does that align with how your templating works too?
Yeah, mine creates task templates based on the type, the categories, really any condition field. It says, does this record match any of these task templates? If so, I have 5 or 12 or whatever many template tasks that will be instantiated on that object. And you get a related list of 5, 10, or 12 tasks.
Okay. So that looks like all I need to do so far until we hit a wall.
You say that with confidence.
If
This is live coding happy hour. This is when we hit a wall.
So one thing that you can do here in Platform is you can go to the API Explorer, and we can leave that record. No, really, we can leave that record.
Are you sure?
Double confirmation.
Really sure?
I don't think I knew that this was going. I don't think I knew that this was available. So as soon as you do that, it's in the API Explorer. I guess it is. I guess it's an API, right?
It should have generated. Well, my expectation is that there is now a scripted REST API that was generated based off of that. That's my assumption.
That is a
totally wrong.
That is a reasonable assumption.
And actually, I don't think you'll find anything here in scripted REST, because ultimately scripted REST is a layer above the REST framework. Scripted REST sits on the same level as the trigger itself. So they're both sort of first-class citizens in the platform
nice.
In terms of ways to create new APIs. And this completely is an alternative to script.
So is there a way for me to get to that endpoint from here? Because I know I can get to the scripted REST APIs from here, but I don't know if I can. So the scripted REST API should be here.
Your scope right now is Google something. Oh wait, you created it in the other scope though.
Yeah, I created an artifact manager script.
Try looking up flow. Go to the Fs in this giant list here.
Flow Designer Table API, Flow Designer.
No, these are all flow APIs.
So, for example, we can find, Agile Board. Right? Agile Board. Yeah. Agile Board.
And it
Here.
has a whole bunch of methods.
But no
Under
create.
Artifact Manager.
Create. No create artifact. Oh, well, I guess I'll have to use Postman to test this.
I think it's always better when a different tool is calling it anyway. It feels more realistic to me.
Yeah.
It is more realistic when another tool does, but I really do love the REST API Explorer.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm
makes me
pinging
sad
someone
when I
to
have
find out
leave.
where it shows up under there.
Real-time support.
All right.
Is this the new
So-
Postman?
No, because it tells me I can upgrade.
That's all right. I haven't upgraded in like 2 years.
I'm glad Postman answered that question for us.
I don't. Yes, it is. No, it's not.
So let's create a new request. Create artifacts. Demo. Let's grab this. And then we should have here this guy. And we need some authorization. Over to the side for authorization creation. Let's see. Okay, now I can pull it back on the screen and let's send it an empty one. See what I get. Does not represent any resource.
Oh, it's because you are doing a get, I think.
Oh,
In
good
Postman.
call.
Oh,
That'll do it.
good catch.
That would have taken us a minute to find that part, but I still failed in the same way. But
Ruh-roh.
ruh-roh.
Let's see. API Artifact Manager. Interesting.
We require
Maybe I need to activate it.
You most likely do. Yeah. Because this
Okay.
is probably
Ooh.
not a
Yeah.
real thing yet.
Did you?
Yeah, I would
you said
think
it requires
prior to
authentication.
I would think prior to activation you can test it, but like the platform's not going to respond to it, right? So
Oh,
Right.
Hilariously,
Yep,
you
good
can't
point.
even test it
Well,
You can't test it because there is no action
because
in the
there is
flow.
no.
that would
So
be-
if you put a
Oh.
log step in
Mm.
there, that will open
Oh.
up the test.
what do you
I've
put?
never-
I'm curious what you put in what the test window pops up with.
Well, we should try it out.
Yeah,
I mean,
we should.
does it ask you for the body.
I would think it's going to ask you for all the
It's
stuff
gonna
that
ask me for
you're
the
asking
things.
for. Yeah.
Yep.
those three
So-
things. Okay.
So the cool thing about this lets you focus on the business logic of the flow to say, hey, I can put values into the things that I defined, even if I haven't figured out how to formulate the right JSON payload yet. So it's kind of a nice way of separating, does my flow work versus does my API call look the right way?
That is cool. With
Lit-
the scripted REST API, you don't know whether you have like an authentication issue or if you're passing something
Mhm.
incorrectly. That is nice.
Yeah, so,
So
it's kind of a nice
now
disconnect.
I can activate it because I actually have a log. I haven't actually told I haven't sent anything that you'd receive in Postman yet.
Right. So you should
But,
get an empty.
but hopefully I won't get a failure. Yeah, sweet.
There you go.
This is
Yeah.
roughly what I expect to get, which is not a failure, but not anything useful. Well, that's cool.
So would it show up in the REST API Explorer now that we activated it?
Interesting question.
That's a good question. I think it might.
Aha!
And I think the other thing is we were looking for a generic place for it, but I'm realizing that we probably should have looked in the
Artifact.
artifact manager
We
namespace.
did originally.
I did.
Okay, got
Second
it.
from the
Got it.
bottom.
Let's see.
I did drop into this namespace and look, and there is.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look at that.
Boom.
There you go.
Only once it was activated. That was the first place I looked, was right here. So,
Oh, interesting. Because I would have thought it would have showed up down below in the links where you got post.
but yes,
What's under there?
there. What do you mean?
Well, you got the API name.
Yeah.
That is, if you expand that, you're going to see the.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's really
Right.
because each of those APIs, which in this case is the flow, is just going to have a single verb. So in this case,
Gotcha.
it's just post because it's post, and you'll see whatever you configured.
I love it. It is here. Now I'm no longer even a little bit sad. And hey, look, it returned the same thing in Postman as it here. Well, the execution ID was a different execution, but I got the same type of result, which is good. So yay, we are part of the way there. So now we actually need to make this flow do something with that information. What I don't know is how I have not explored yet, but I assume there's some flow where my least surprise is under flow logic is going to be a way to send something as a response. Does anyone have a different least surprise expectation?
I don't know that I would expect that to be logic. I would expect that to possibly be I would expect that to be the output of this, honestly.
Yeah,
I would
flow
think it
set
would
flow output.
implicitly be the output.
So, and actually, I'm sorry, I had an audio issue. Can you restate the question? Because I think I have a very important clarification to make, but I want to make sure I understand the question before I do.
Where would you set the response payload?
Yeah, where I send the response.
And the short answer
how
is
I set the response.
The short answer is, as of this release, you do not. It is async only. And part of that asynchronous designation is that this thing kicks off right away, gives you a standard response and says, hey, here's the idea.
It gives you an
of the flow.
execution, and then you check in on the execution.
Yeah, because by the time you get a response, the flow may not have even been picked up by the flow engine to run yet. So there is no response to actually even return. So there's a future considerations around this, and obviously more things that can come in some other release. But at this time, it's async, which also means standardized response.
Okay. So that means I'm going to need to, I still need to be able to get the results of a.
So, well, what that says is your original design can't happen in a single call, because your idea was call, get the thing, get the results. However, it can be a two-step thing. It can be an initiate and then a sweep up the result.
Well, and for my particular use case, I can probably just pivot from that, because my actual use case can't do a two-step call.
You could issue two Slack commands, one to create the artifact, and then the other say, what are my tasks?
Or you could have you could have an initiation, right? So you have an initiation of that you start with that, and then you could have, say, a flow on creation of artifact that does something different.
Yeah. So to solve my actual use case, I'm going to do more like what you said, Dave, which is I'll have my flow push something to Slack because I invoke this from, like I'll have ServiceNow, force something to where it came from versus getting it immediately. That's I did not get that when I was reading about this feature. So if we learned nothing else today, I learned that this is
Async.
This is async, and it's right there in the name. So
It is, and now we know why. But I think to that point, the use cases initially that you would probably be focused on are, hey, I have a process I want to kick off. I want to receive a webhook. things of that nature, where maybe the caller is less concerned about the results and it's more about the caller being able to be the thing that kicks that flow off, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I struggle a bit how, and we don't have to go too far into this because I want to still show some useful things on the screen here. But I'm wondering how this is more advantageous for me than just using the flow API to invoke a flow.
From a scripted REST API.
Well, now I could just invoke a flow from whatever would have called this. So I can use.
So you could create a scripted REST API that invokes a foreground flow.
Yep.
Gets the results that you were hoping to
Sends the
do,
response.
and then puts a response back in the output of that scripted REST API. Is that what you're thinking, Andrew?
I was actually thinking just call the flow API directly
From where?
from wherever I'm trying to call. Like
But didn't you
from
want to
Slack in this case, I'll call the flow API directly. Like, what am I guess I'm getting more ability to control the parameters. So a lot of the reasons why I have used scripted REST APIs in the past is so that I can control what the response is, more so than the input. I mean, I've done the input a little bit, but that's just higher in my queue of use cases for me, is controlling the output. And so I'm trying to think through it, because it's not a familiar pattern to me as much. Why?
I think the main thing with
this
the flow APIs today is those flow APIs are all server side. There's not a generic, hey, run any flow from a REST endpoint type API available. So I think that's one of the differentiating factors here is that this
those are all ServiceNow APIs direct.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is the first step towards such an API.
Okay.
And there, again, there are lots of thoughts around what to do next. And but in the short term,
this is still super powerful though, on allowing me to, put this in one spot, and have these together. But yeah, as you said, if you can make it synchronous perhaps in the future, then the output, in the setting that up, will be also another significant step. So let's continue on the path here. So we are invoking this flow now, and we're collecting the data we need from the body, but we need to do something with that, right? So we still need to parse that body, and or rather, looks like we don't need to parse that body. We have data pills right here for that body that we can drop into what we need to do next, which is create a record.
Could you create a body that's not an object? I mean, what if you just put those 3 data pills as...
So the body started as an object.
Oh, you weren't given a choice on that.
I was not given a choice on
that. Okay. I missed that.
Yeah, and I think that's another key kind of interesting thing about the REST trigger is where, there are guardrails around, hey, these are the kinds of, essentially the API that gets generated, the caller needs to conform to the contract.
Sure.
If you need full control and you want to say, hey, I want to send my payload as base64 encoded after I send it through some hashing algorithm, you still have the power to do that. And that's really where scripted REST comes into play, because you want to fully control it end to end. And in this case, we're saying, hey, this is a way to quickly stand something up, but you must conform to its format.
So
that's why you're here, Josh.
It is. So we've got our type. We've got our planned published date, and I'll probably actually, do some validation on this before I go and put it in a record.
Want to do the lookup first? I don't think you can do a create record from template, can you?
Oh, yes, I was going to do from a template. I was going to look up a template.
Yeah. Well, you can still put that action first.
Yeah. And then what was the last thing that I put in the body?
Oh, yeah, you did.
I did the date and the type and the template.
The template.
I don't need that here. Got it. So create the record, and then we need to, I don't even know how to apply a template programmatically. I probably have to create an action for that. Like I'll probably have to create that action to invoke that against a record. So when you're on a when you're on a regular table, when you click the apply template, that is that is a thing that is API callable.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll be some custom work. So new record. So clicking this is, inserting a bunch of data into this record from that template. And so that is API callable. I just don't have that API handy. So
that's not an option in the.
I thought if you had no fields, you could use a template.
Yeah, I thought there was a.
Take your. I hate to do this, but take your fields out.
Absolutely. I don't hate to do it at all. Tell me your ways.
Man, I could have sworn I remember seeing
I've
template.
Seen
in here
template
somewhere.
on there before.
Template, like
Just,
where?
Okay, create a new action for.
You want a new action?
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about from template? Maybe template. Template.
Is it in creator update record?
Maybe it's creator update.
Create templated table.
Brad, you and I are not crazy on this.
I wasn't going to say anything because I was like, maybe I am crazy, but
Useful
maybe
actions.
every time I see it, I'm like, when would I use that? I really want to use that.
try creator update.
Create or
There it is, third one down.
Yeah.
No, it's the first one down.
set fields dynamically.
Just put her on there.
Put her on there. Let's do it. And
Wow. Okay.
artifact.
Maybe we are crazy.
Maybe it was in Paris and gone now. I don't know.
I mean, the
could've
thing
sworn that's a
existing
thing.
and being crazy are also not mutually exclusive.
This is true.
Shall we do a quick look? Create record from template.
I think we need an official sound for going off on a tangent, but I love it.
Here, I got one for you.
Oh,
That was special.
That was something.
That was a Super Friends. Meanwhile, in the Hall of Justice.
And didn't jump out there. How about we take out Flow Designer and see if there's just a create records based on the template? Yeah,
And this is just in case anyone was wondering. Yes, we Google this stuff too,
absolutely,
all the time.
all the time. And sometimes the results come up with me being the person who wrote the answer.
Don't you hate that?
That has totally I have totally
Everybody
found
has this.
the blog either the blog post or like a community post is the first Google hit for the thing you're looking for, and then you look at well, who wrote that? And you're like, oh, I see.
What was I smoking that day?
I had my smart hat on that day. So I don't see anything jumping out at me about templates and Flow. Template.
What I can say is that template is a input type in Flow, And so you can sort of create those nice key value pair collectors based on a set of fields. And I
Okay.
do know that I believe a data pill that contains the serialized form of that template, which is a special key value pair convention. If
Basically an
dropped,
encoded query. If
yeah, and I believe you can drop one of those onto the fields of this action, and I think that will work. But I haven't done it personally, and I don't know if we can make it happen in 9 minutes. So that's maybe
we're gonna have to look for that one.
something
For
for another
now,
day. Yes.
So say that again.
So
I was clicking things and you were saying something that was very interesting, and I think I missed a couple of keywords.
yes, if you look in a template, and if you actually look at the value that gets stored in the database, it's that key value pair string.
Yep.
It's like a query string. And I believe you can drop one of those query strings onto the fields.
Here?
I believe you can, or some
Whoa.
form of it
No,
in some places.
you
or
can't just
maybe-
say we believe you can. We're gonna go do it.
I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
Because if you stick that in a string, it's going to come out as a query string.
Yep. So that's the thing. I can't remember if it works with the out of box action as it is, or if it has to be a template input. So I hope I'm not sending us on a wild goose chase.
Hey, I love it. I'm on board for the wild goose chase right now.
Chasing
Let's do
geese.
So there you go. There's a template, and you see how it's a big old encoded query string. You can actually create a new record that way if you do a sys
Absolutely, you can.
underscore
Just,
ID equals
you know,
-1 and sysparm under query equals that thing. You
Yeah.
will get fields loaded up.
So it's easy to script that. But
Yep.
let's see if can I drop that there?
Yeah. Where would you drop that?
I think you have to take out
What
the
if you-
individual fields.
What if you
Take these
what if
out?
you looked up what if above all this you looked up the template
Yeah.
and then took the output of the template and used that as the data pill?
Right.
Could
Yeah, I
that
think
thing
there has to be a pill. Yeah.
Yeah. So
so above your create artifact record,
Yep,
add a lookup record in the
sure.
template table.
That was gonna be
we're going to do that.
something
next
that
time.
I thought we had to do anyway, was to get the template from the template table. And let's just go get the template table's name,
Sys under
which
template.
is sys template, and put that in here. Left bracket is your friend.
Yeah. So is right bracket.
Yep.
So if you learn nothing else from the stream today, left bracket and table field drop downs is your friend. If you know the first 9 characters of your table, you can get the correct table much easier. Like task.
Or sys.
You can actually
user.
get task.
This user.
Otherwise,
yeah.
you're like, wait, task.
There's 8 million.
And if you do it without the left bracket,
Yeah. Look at the size of that scroll bar.
so
Yeah. User's the other one. Like, oh,
Sys template. And we're going to look up the
name.
name, the template. Oh, name
Name.
is from template in my data pill. Template. All right. And we can potentially drop into nope. We can't
What
can't
about
drop a field onto that.
No, not
Doesn't
into
seem-
that. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what you would put into that.
Yeah, this is the part where it may have to be a template input. And so this is where the Goose Chase aspect probably comes in. I know this can be done somewhere and it's just been a while. So
That's what Brad and I were doing. It's like, where was that? Anybody in the
And
chat?
I'm like Chuck. It's something that I'm like I don't think I've ever used it before, but I remember seeing it multiple times.
It's always there right before the fields until you need it.
something
Well-
for the show notes errata later.
So pretty simply, if there isn't a like super awesome nice way to do it, we can still like get it
Create an
done,
action and yeah.
with with creating an action for this.
No, Jordan, we're not going back to jelly. Not on this show.
So since
in.
we've got this, we can, we can pretty easily turn that into a record from a template with an action. Like the script will be super duper duper easy script because we got all the data contained right here that we need. Like this is already prepackaged, ready to go. Poof, field names and values. So super easy script. So with that, I will stop the screen share and we can talk about what we did and the walls we hit. Unless you had something you wanted to see, Josh?
I was just going to suggest, because I knew we were almost out of time. I couldn't remember if you had brought up the execution view after you hit the flow from the Postman, just to show that, once that data has come in. So this execution ID. So when you kick this off, this made the flow execute. And I was just wondering if you could open the flow now on the instance side, just to show the execution.
Sure can.
That had occurred, because it's pretty nice. I mean, and this is one of the beautiful things about
using Flow Designer and Integration Hub at all.
Right. Yeah. You're no longer in there like doing a bunch of logs and then going in and trying to find the log of the REST call that happened 10 minutes ago or whatever the case is.
Yes.
And so now you can start to see, all of those things that you were defining as the inputs and all those things you're passing in from that, from Postman are just going to show up here as traditional objects and object structures within this ops view. So it makes it very easy to explore and find the details.
Oh, the Postman one. So I drilled into the Postman one, which isn't very interesting, but if instead I grab the one where I actually put something in the body, it will be slightly more interesting because I actually sent some stuff over in the body.
Cool.
I swear I did on one of these runs, sent some stuff in the body. Am I clicking the wrong thing?
Also, the question I asked at the very beginning is answered right there, which is it's running as admin.
Oh,
nice.
Because
here it is.
It's logged in as admin, or where did that come from?
I auth as admin.
Okay.
So it wasn't running as system; it ran as my user.
Yep.
Very cool.
So here in the execution view, we have the runtime values of what was passed. In this case, it's the request body, and we can see the JSON request body here, which is pretty great. And we didn't do anything else with that, but the execution view is the centralization of all this stuff into here is just the best thing. I only have one complaint in this area ever with that, which is the for each. Just it's not the greatest presentation for the for each, but it's all together in one window, which is great.
My bug is that when you run a data stream, you can't see the response payload because it's doing the pagination and then dealing it out serially. So if you want to see what the response payload is, you got to do the test. But if it only shows the first 20 records on the test and your stream dies about 250 records in, you're kind of hosed.
Oh, yeah. So that was the new asynchronous scripted REST API trigger.
Key point there.
That is available in Flow Designer with Quebec. Anything else that was, that you want to take a moment and highlight, Josh?
No, I just think I would say we're excited. We would love to hear from everyone about how this goes and what they like and don't like. And we're excited about what's next. So
no other Quebec features that were like fancied you that you deployed here in Quebec?
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot now? With
yeah,
features?
Absolutely.
Tell us about them.
Well, probably remote process sync. That's a big one. It's a big
I was
bidirectional.
teeing it up for you.
Yeah. No, so remote process sync is a bidirectional framework for e-bonding. So there's a lot of good stuff there. We released our first version of that in Quebec, and we're not done. So we're excited about the future state, but definitely check out remote process sync if you have bidirectional e-bonding needs and have complex correlation and ordered delivery and all the good things that you care about when you're keeping processes in sync between multiple systems.
And so to help people who have been doing this for a while, in Integration Hub, we have had the example ServiceNow to ServiceNow e-bonding spoke, and then we moved to the remote instance spoke in Orlando or Paris, last year sometime. And then this year, now we are moving to that next level of abstraction, which is no longer locked into ServiceNow to ServiceNow, or is it still locked into ServiceNow to ServiceNow and it's just process level?
In the Quebec timeframe, it is still ServiceNow to ServiceNow, but it's focused on process, and so these, this is not a duplicative feature of, say, the remote instance spoke. The remote instance spoke is much more like, hey, I want to call APIs on the other side, maybe on demand or ad hoc. Whereas remote process sync, or we call it RPS, is the easy short acronym, is more about sort of that long-term maintenance and orchestration of these bidirectional processes, which often have more complexity than you can really easily handle with just a couple of flows. So that's kind of the difference.
And so
there.
this is, keeping a, like when I was a customer, the last place I was a customer, we had some integrations with some vendors that were also using ServiceNow, and we had shared processes because they were providing services to us and we were requesting those services and getting help with those services. And we needed bidirectional process sync. And this would have solved my use case then, I think, which is I needed to communicate with not my ServiceNow instance and keep two processes synced up without tons of overhead of making sure our processes were identical and the same tables and things. No, this is just two processes in two different ServiceNow instances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they can be completely different. It could be could be custom process A and completely custom process B, and they don't have to be the same at all. And so that's one of the big exciting things, is just how flexible that is.
Yeah. So it could be change management in mine and customer service management in theirs.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because they're providing customer service to me and I'm really executing a change.
Yeah.
And they're part of it.
Yeah. It's all about how do we do the work in the place that we do our work and relative to each side.
All right.
Wanna wrap us up, Brad?
Let's wrap up. Well, thanks for joining. But before we leave, let's go ahead and rate our beers. We will start with Josh. We rate our beers on a 0.25 scale. So what do you think?
So the Dilliner Weiss from Mars Community Brewing with pickle, really good. It's a great sour. I would say it's a 4 1/4. Yeah, it's a solid 4.25 for me, which says a lot.
Wow. Nice. That's a good sour. I want one.
All right. So I'm going to tell you the Sweetwater 420. This is not an absolute rating. This is a contextual rating. I have been losing weight for the last 6 months, which part of that involves drinking very little beer because it's full of alcohol and carbs. This is like at least a 4.5, maybe more. I'm going to say 4 because, it tastes good. Welcome back, Sweetwater 420.
You called it the Bud Light a minute ago. I'm going, he's going to give it like a 3 or 2.
No, it's the Bud Light in that it's ubiquitous. It's the ubiquitous craft beer that you can find in every Kroger and Food Lion in your life.
And looking good, Dave. We can tell.
Yes. For a minute, I thought it was Michael Butler on the screen. My homemade margarita, which is almost gone. That whole tankard back there was full. So, before I rate this, I do have to remind you that there is a Tech Now coming up on February 23rd, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern. Go to bit.ly/TN84reg we are going to be configuring the workspace. Jeremy Duncan is going to be leading us through that. So I want to give that final announcement. bit.ly/TN84reg to get registered for that. And if you can't find that, go to the community bit.ly/ServiceNow-TechNow and you can find it there. The margarita, I think I put a little too much tequila in here. 4.5 today.
Nice. So my drive-through red. So I like red ales. So they always, move up. This one is sporting a little more booze in it than usual for a red. So this is high for a red. Was 7.3, which is more than I was expecting. It's pretty good. So it's a 4. It's a good solid 4. If the trigger had been synchronous, it might have been a 4.25. Or if I had known that it was asynchronous. Either way.
Nice. All right. My bourbon barrel French press was really good. I'm going to give it a 4.5. It was excellent.
Wow.
Man, we have the champions of beers.
Yeah, this was
scores
a good
on
one.
today. This was
An
all-star
team
high
today.
average, and an all-star team. Thank you so much for joining us, Josh and Dave. It's certainly a pleasure to hang out with y'all anytime, but on the show is the very best. So I appreciate y'all joining and sharing your insights with us on this today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for the invite, gentlemen.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.